Hello and welcome to Board Game Gumbo. Today we're unboxing Destinies from Lucky Duck Games. So Destinies is a game for 1 to 3 players, so kind of an odd player count. It is a competitive, story-driven campaign game. Each scenario in the game is going to play in about 2 hours. Of course, there are several scenarios because it is a campaign. Here is our rule book. Another thing I should mention before we get started is Destinies does require an app, and it requires something with a camera on it to scan QR codes. So I know some people are not a fan of games with apps. Was sort of hesitant towards them, but Journeys into Middle-earth, as well as Imperial Assault and Mansions of Madness, are all really excellent games with the apps. It cuts out a lot of the fiddliness. You know, you don't need movement rules or things like that because the app handles it. I'm a little concerned with this one because it does require a camera. Basically, to play this, I'd have to play it on my phone, and my phone is, only so big. If you have a tablet, I think this would be much more approachable. So we'll see. Here is our rule book, and the rule book is really short because, again, the app is going to handle a ton of this. With the app, you don't need like a storybook. You don't even need rules for enemy movement. You basically cut out a lot of the stuff. So this is a very long, heavy game, or not heavy, but very long game. It's a campaign scenario game. Each scenario alone is 2 hours, but this rulebook is really, really light because, again, they can incorporate all that into the app. It's one of the advantages. All right, our rulebook out of the way. We've got a nice looking organizer here. And we'll do the minis last. Let's look at what we have here. So we have player dashboards. They are double layered. This spot up here is double layered, as well as all the stat spots. So there's 3 stats in the game. And this, to me, is really interesting, the way they did this. So there are 3 stats in the game. You've got strength. This looks like speed and probably intelligence, although they may have different names. And you're going to have these little pegs that are going to go in here in different spots. And those essentially determine your successes when you roll for a skill check. So say you roll for a strength skill check, and you have a tab in the 4, the 6, the 9, and the 12. And let's say you roll a 10. Well, because you're rolling a 10, you have 3 tabs below that. You're going to get 3 successes. So all of your mitigation comes from changing your stat allocations. So if you want to make it more likely that you're going to get successes, you want to decrease your lowest one. If you get it to a 2, that's pretty much a guaranteed success. Whereas if you want, those big rolls where you're getting 4 successes, you want to move your highest token down. So that, I think, is really interesting. And as far as I know, unique. I don't think I've seen that in any other game. We've got some punchboard here for money. This is really thick punchboard too. I mean, surprisingly thick. But it comes out nice. We've got some icons, different banners and things. I think these are event tokens. I could be wrong about that. More punchboard. Again, no issues there. And then at the bottom here, we get into the cards. So actually, let's look at the other components first before we get into cards, because we have our tokens here. And again, these are our stat tokens. So these will fit in our board like so, and it'll mark our stats. So just in the previous example I gave, that would be your strength stat. And then on your turn, you're going to roll dice. So you're going to roll 2 white dice. And there's 2 per player, which is nice. It's not one of those games where it gives you just enough dice for 1 player, and then you got to pass them around the table. And then you're going to roll a certain number of purple dice. I believe you start with 1. The white dice, and go ahead and show you these because these are pretty nice. I mean, these are obviously larger than normal size, but they are recessed in, and they go from 1 to 6. Actually, it looks like it goes from 1 to 4. Yeah, it looks like there's multiples there. So there's 1, 4. There's a couple 3s, 2 2s. I'm sorry, 2 1s, 1 2. So these go to 1 to 4. And then your purple dice look like they go to 3, but then they have this symbol on it. This symbol is an automatic success. And then everything else you're going to add up. So again, we've got this situation here where our red stat is this many numbers, and we need to make a red check. So we're going to roll our standard dice, and we rolled really well. We got 3 3s for 9. So because we rolled 9, we're going to get 3 successes because we have 3 tokens at or below the 9. So again, that's a really cool system, I think, and something I haven't seen before. And these dice are very nice. Again, they are different sizes. These are oversized and these are sort of normal sized, but they look nice. What else? Okay, so our cards. Cards are a big part of the game. You're going to be, the app is pretty much going to handle when to put out cards and what cards to put out. But you're also going to have opportunities to scan cards with a camera for different reasons. So here are our location cards. Location cards are double-sided. You've got sort of the revealed side here and then an unrevealed side here. You can see the thickness here. They're basically cardstock. They're a bit on the thinner cardstock, but that's fine because you're not going to be shuffling these. It's going to tell you which ones to put out because they have numbers, and they've got appropriate medieval fantasy artwork on it. This game is a medieval fantasy game. It does have some, as far as I'm aware, it has some like occult, Cthulhu-like elements. So vampires and werewolves and angels and demons and things like that. Here are our character cards. And here's where you start seeing the QR codes. So when you start a game, you're going to pick a character to play as, whether you're the noble, the witch, soldier, woodsman, savior, the wise. Sounds like a title more than a character class. So here is your character cards. You're going to select one of these. They have QR codes because on the back of the card, and I'm not going to show it to you because it's a bit of a spoiler, but on the back of the card are your character's destinies, and they do have 2 of them. So at one point in the game, I think actually maybe at the very beginning of the game, one of the things you can do is you can go talk to essentially a fortune teller, and they will tell you your destiny. And you're going to decide which QR code you want to scan. It's going to tell you to scan a QR code, and you decide which one to do, and it's going to give you one of your 2 destinies for your character. So that's one of the ways that they use QR codes. You then have item cards, and item cards do have costs on them, as you can see here. So I wonder if they're all the same. Let's see real quick. So like, are all the 10s the same thing? Yes, it looks like they are. That may be different as you get later into the game, but it looks like they're all the same, at least to start with. So when you acquire a card, it'll tell you which card to go get. So it'll tell you to go get a 7 card or whatever. And then once you have the card, obviously it's got a value. It gives you some bonus. This one is at a discard, but they also have QR codes on them, because what you can do is, say you go to a town and you're heading to a town, you run across a guy on the side of the road, you may be able to offer him your horse, and that may give you some type of benefit. He may give you something in return. So you're going to scan the QR code to basically offer the guy your horse. This is kind of interesting. We've got the rest of these appear to all be items. I'll go through them fairly quickly if they're all just items. I don't know if any of the items are spoilers. Maybe something for you to consider if you want to skip ahead. but they all appear to be the same. Got herbs, medicine, swords. This appears to be taking a more sort of, I don't want to say realistic, because again, there are like angels and demons, but you know, there's no +1 flaming longswords or anything like that, at least that I haven't seen yet. Oh, and here's some, I wonder how those are different. Maybe those are just the higher level ones have that red icon, or the things you can't buy in a shop or something. And those are definitely, yeah, those are the higher cost ones, so probably a rarity thing. Let's see, is there anything underneath our organizer? Nope. Okay. All right, so let's get to the minis. So obviously the one that stands out is this guy right here, right in the center. He's got a scorpion tail, multiple scorpion tails. He is definitely interesting looking. Everything else is going to be a smaller scale, as you can sort of see. So I don't know which of these are which, if there's like character pieces somewhere. It's kind of surprising the amount of detail. Just for comparison, here's a Blood Rage figure, just so you can sort of see a size comparison there. They are very tiny. But again, they're going to be on those location cards. See if I can get my camera to focus. There we go. They're going to be sitting on those location cards, so they kind of have to be tiny. But these are going to be everything from your player characters. So this kind of looks like the soldier, maybe. This is going to be everything from player characters to just random NPCs that show up on the map that you can interact with. My camera's autofocus is all over the place. And then we have some slightly larger pieces, like this angel here, which is pretty cool. There we go. And then there's one of our werewolves, who's a little bit bigger than the rest of the pieces. But that's it. That's everything in Destinies from Lucky Duck Games.